How many years have we called Russia a paper tiger? And yet they still continue to prosecute war. How many years have we said that Ukraine is it's just a matter of time before Ukraine wins? How many years have we been claiming Ukraine is winning, pushing back Russia, right? How long has it been going on? The media from the West is either clearly flawed, intentionally slanted, or they don't actually have the funding to understand what real news is. And it's been crystal clear now. So moving forward, I hope all Americans understand you can't trust what the media has to say because they don't fucking know.
I think we got that.
Right?
I think we got that message, yeah.
What you're seeing with Russia playing out that's so incredible is a number of things, right? First, Russia understands, Putin specifically understands how to carry out a long-term conflict and the strategic benefits of carrying out a long-term conflict.
Did he want that to happen, though, at the beginning? That's what I mean. When I say paper tiger, I don't mean like they're worthless and can't do anything. I mean, if they were going to be like the U.S., this would have been like Desert Storm, and it wasn't. Like, so did he want this to be, fucking 3.5 years in?
No. I think there were several changes in strategy.
Okay.
Just like we were talking about with intelligence, right? Strategy one was like, let's storm in with all of our oldest tech. Let's just run in there, run roughshod, get to Kiev, knock this whole thing out of the park, right? That was strategy one. And he had generals in place that must have told them they can do that. And the whole idea was basically just dump all of our old shit in there and keep our new shit back, and we'll keep selling it. Because remember, Russia's the number 2 largest weapons exporter in the world behind the United States.
Right.
That's using a modern tank is a double loss. You're putting it into conflict, which means you can't sell it, and you run the risk of losing it in conflict and having somebody else find it and then reverse engineer it and all sorts of other shit. So that was their first strategy. Obviously, it didn't work. They thought they were going to win in 2 weeks. The intelligence assessment across the world was that they would win in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? That's not like a few people who made a bad call. That's basically every first world intelligence service everywhere thought that was how it was going to play out. It didn't. Strategy changed. Once that strategy changed to a prolonged conflict that they were trying to execute, and then the strategy changed a third time. Let's use the winter in our favor, right? And you've seen Russia go through multiple heads of the military and Ministry of Defense, and you've seen them execute multiple different types of strategies. Well, now what we have discovered, and what Russia has discovered too, is that once the war machine is spun up, the economy starts to rely on the war machine. So Putin has no reason to spin back this war. And if he's going to pull back, if he's going to agree to a ceasefire, if he's going to give Zelensky the chance of even possibly staying in Ukraine, if any of that's going to happen, he has to be able to claim a massive victory for the Russian people. That's the only way it's going to work. One of the biggest tells that you understand Russia's winning and Ukraine's losing. And let me make this very clear.
Yeah.
Russia is winning, Ukraine is losing. And the way that you know that is because when the negotiation started, when the U.S. started to broker negotiation, the first people to say yes were Ukraine. They both tried to say no for a while, but the first person to cave was Ukraine. In any negotiation, the first person to accept the terms is the one with the least amount of leverage.
Yeah.
That's one of the big reasons why in a negotiation, you want to keep the negotiation going. You don't want to reach a rapid end because the first person to agree to the terms is the person who accepts the leverage is not theirs.
But now they've kind of tripled down on that in the other direction after that, because now they're like, oh, we won't go to the table at all.
The Russians,
that's what Zelensky's at least saying publicly.
Yeah, because Russia didn't go. Russia has not accepted
he's
the
trying
terms.
to say, well, fuck you, I won't go too.
And Europe is trying to do whatever it can do without the United States support. Everybody's trying to figure out how do you keep Ukraine going without the United States, because we're all just waiting for the United States to say, fuck this. Trump has already said, if these two aren't going to agree to something like reasonable, we're out, right? Not our problem anymore. That puts all the powers in Putin's court.
Yeah.
He has no reason to accept a ceasefire. The war machine is running. The economy is doing better than it was before. He's got all the strongman benefits that we were just talking about with Erdogan and with Netanyahu and around the world.
And whatever happened with all the sanctions, too? Because that was supposed to, choke them out. And it didn't.
It increased the value of the Russian currency instead, right? Because Russia found new outlets. It started working with Iran, started working with China, started working with North Korea, started working with India, right? All these American allies started supporting Russia because of Russian oil and because of Russian resources. So Russia's in a strong place. Ukraine's in a terrible place. Europe's doing anything it can because Europe still believes, well, it's not really true. Europe knows they're not really fighting for a democracy. Now what Europe's afraid of is a stronger, emboldened Russia. The amount of fear in Europe about Russia really is kind of remarkable. It's not until you talk to Europeans in Europe that you really start to understand how afraid they are of Russia.
How much do you think they should be versus they're overreacting?
I think that there's a cultural element for sure, right? There's a reactive element that's cultural for sure. But there's also a justifiable reason, because Russia doesn't belong to the European Union. It's not part of Europe. It's located in Europe. It's massive. It's bold. It's a strongman leader versus the rest of Europe, which has traditionally not been. It doesn't play by the rules. So there's an element there where they are definitely the wild animal that you have to worry about that's in your backyard. So I get that. At the same time, they don't have the modern technology. They don't have the organizational power. They don't have the alliances to just go in and take Poland.
Right.
Even though everybody in Poland is afraid that Russia is going to invade Poland.
I feel like there would be, you want to talk about like a NATO response and something like that. If they went and actually tried to do that with Poland, that's not one of those
there's no ambiguity there.
Right.
Like there was with Ukraine.
Right.
And I think Putin understands that. But what Putin is a smart guy. He's been a smart guy ever since we said he had a brain tumor and that he was going to be ousted from within. Remember that in the first year of the Ukraine conflict?
He was looking sketchy. Remember he was shaking and holding the table and stuff? There was a minute there where I was thinking, maybe he is really fucked up and this is his last act. But it's been 3 years now. I mean, the guy's fucking kicking.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's got cancer, then he's a fucking bulldog.
It's
I
true.
don't know what to tell you.
It's true. So he understands he's got all the leverage. And he even understands his leverage over Trump, right? He knows that if he accepts Trump's ceasefire agreement, it makes Trump look stronger than Putin. But if he holds back and he pushes back and forth a little bit, now the world is like, oh, maybe Trump's not as strong as Trump is. So now even if he does accept a ceasefire in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, right? Now he didn't enable Trump to fulfill his promise of ending the war on day one, which means Putin's not fully under control of Trump, which is exactly what he wants the world to think.
Right. Do you think we're going to see Trump kind of follow through on some of these things and stop funding Ukraine and force the hand here?
It would make a lot of sense. It would make a lot of sense because what benefit we got from Ukraine has already been received. Our weapons are field tested. We understand how Russian strategy works. We've seen Chinese and North Korean troops fight for Russia on Ukrainians. So the benefit's there. We've got it. We're good. And there's still going to be more conflict that we can watch. Now it's time to see, how does conflict play out in Syria? How does conflict play out? How do the Israelis go through about cleansing, the West Bank and Gaza? There's plenty of conflict for us to watch and learn from now. What we had to learn from Ukraine is essentially over.
Yeah. On a totally separate note, there was something that happened in between the last time you were here and now, and that is you had, well, obviously Trump won the election, but you had all these transparency promises happen. And I'll give him credit on one. There seems to be a lot of JFK files that were released. I think it was 80,000 pages or something like that. It's something. It's a lot more than any president's done. But the other one he talked about was, we're going to release the Epstein files. And it was really disappointing because they brought in all the fucking Twitter influencers, got a photo up of them holding up a fucking binder like it was new information. And as far as I have seen, and Alessi, maybe you can also retweet this because I know you've been investigating this a bunch, but as far as I've seen, there is nothing about the case that has come out that I did not already know, and therefore people out there didn't have the ability to already know that was public. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, nothing new.
Okay. And we haven't heard anything since, and it's not helpful when you look at the fact that Donald Trump was a guy who ran around in New York. Jeffrey Epstein touched fucking everyone, no pun intended, who ran around New York at that time, right? So I'm sure there's, something in there that looks less than interesting. But do you think we will ever get any truth on Epstein and who he was? And I've heard you talk about this now on a lot of other podcasts besides being in here. Would you say he was definitely some form of an intelligence asset? I'm not saying a full-blown spy, even though that's what I think he was. I know there's room to maneuver there. Would you say that he was at least someone who was gathering intelligence and giving it to other people?
It's highly likely that Epstein was a intel target. I would also say that there's a high probability that as an intel target, he was also someone who communicated intelligence assets, like intelligence insights, intelligence reports, personal assessment, contact information, targeting data to foreign intelligence services. Because just like he ran with all the muck of the mucks in the United States, he ran with all the muck of the mucks all over the world, right? That's exactly the kind of person that becomes an access agent in the world of intelligence. Mm-hmm. Somebody who can connect you with other people, someone who becomes an asset for intelligence purposes. The probabilities are just too high to reject. The chances of him never having actually been approached by a foreign intelligence officer, the chances of him never being identified and bumped and developed is almost nil, right? It just doesn't make any sense. Any professional intelligence service would see a guy like that as a connector and be all up in there. But that doesn't mean, like you said, that doesn't mean that he was a witting intelligence asset that had agreed to work for, you name it, the Cubans or the Russians, right? In fact, a guy like Epstein may have been the kind of guy who accepted to work for multiple people because he thought he was smarter than all of them. Who knows?
That's possible.
When it comes to his intelligence activity, I don't think there's any reason for us to reasonably expect we'll ever know. Because if he had an intelligence role, then it's going to be classified in a completely different system, a completely different classification process than everything related to his criminal trial.
Yeah.
So that will forever be locked away. It's just like any intelligence activity of CIA or FBI or Secret Service in what happened to JFK, permanently going to be locked away, classified under a completely different classification code.
So you had a hilarious segment, I might add, with friend of the show, Lou Ferrante, on Piers Morgan, which was the funniest crossover Alessi and I have ever. Alessi texted me, he's like, "You're not going to believe this." I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Lou was here like the day before that." He's like, "Lou just went on with Andy and it got biblical." I was like, "What?" And I watched it, and for 40 minutes, it was like this great conversation. And then Lou just really doesn't like the CIA, so don't take it personally.
Oh, I get it.
It was fucking hilarious watching you guys go back and forth, so highly recommend. But, there was one thing you said in there that I just unfortunately think is 1,000% right. And you said, if there were any files that were created back then that would actually show this, if they were even created, and I do think they were created, they were destroyed a long time ago, probably back then.
Yes. People need to remember, Gina Haspel became director of CIA in whatever the fuck it was, 2016, 2018?
Yeah.
And she destroyed evidence because she was told to destroy evidence. So she was like, you know what? I'm a good government employee. I'm looking for my pension. I'll do what I'm told. Come on, people. If we're still fucking eradicating evidence that implicates CIA and illegal activity in Guantanamo Bay in 2018, you think we weren't doing it in 1962? So it is a reality we have to accept. So will we ever see it? No. It's either fully classified or it was classified and then destroyed to make sure that there's no trail to follow. Once you can palate that, then you can start thinking through the reasonable reasons why a government would choose to destroy things like that. Right? It goes back to the beginning of our conversation. The government keeps secrets from the American people so that the American people can have a shadow of doubt that their government is competent. Right? If these kinds of files existed, if this evidence existed, people would land on the side of my government is incompetent. And that's not how a government survives.
So Andy, it's just you and me in here. Remember that. No one's listening, but it sounds to me like you're admitting you guys whacked him. Is that fair to say? There's no cameras. Don't worry about it.
I wouldn't say that that's fair to say. I would be willing to bet that there's going to, if and when new information comes out, I promise you people will only be wildly disappointed with their federal government.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to turn out.
I'll agree with you on that.
That is the guaranteed outcome, right?
But you did do it.
I wasn't part of it.
Did they have like a fucking pizza party the first day at CIA where they're like, here's all the shit we actually did, and you guys just can never tell anybody?
No.
That's what I would say too if they had it. I'd say no.
They have a parade of people who come through who talk about how amazing their job at CIA is. And it's not until you're like 2 or 3 tours in that you realize that all the people who were there to greet you on your first day are all people that weren't in the field on the first day. So how good are they at what their job was if they could be sitting here telling us about how great it is? They were clearly not the people in the field. It's a bass-ackwards thing when you start to realize
bass-ackwards, I like that.
That the people who train you at the farm are not the best and brightest in the CIA, because the best and brightest in the CIA are the ones in the field. The ones that are training you are the ones who had affairs, had substance abuse issues, had mental breakdowns, whatever else, and now they need a 2-year cooling off period. So that's why they're there to tell you how awesome the CIA is when you first show up for your orientation.
You know, people ask me about you all the time just because I've known you for so long. You've been on so many podcasts, and, you know, we've had a lot of in-depth psychological conversations about the worldview you come from and all that. And people are just like, you know, what's this dude like? And one of the common questions I'll get is, how serious is he about fucking disappearing? Like the curly-haired CIA guy, which I will take credit for telling you not to cut the hair. That was 100% me in my parents' kitchen 3 years ago telling you not to do that. But they're like the curly-haired CIA guy who's on every fucking podcast known to man. He's been seen billions of times. At this point, it might, if you include all the clips and everything, it might be tens of billions of times around the world, is suddenly just gonna like go off the map with his family. And I always answer the question. I hope I'm right here, but I'll let you correct me. I always tell him, I'm like, he's dead serious.
Serious.
You will literally, like, I'll have a day where I'm talking with him, and then I probably won't ever talk with him again.
I will probably talk to you.
Damn it! That's not helping.
I will probably talk to you. I will talk to you. There's only, I mean, I can only count on one hand the amount of people I'm going to keep in contact with. But
I'm on the one hand?
You're on one hand.
Yo,
dude.
Yo, look at that.
Yeah.
All right.
Unless he's not on that hand.
I'm going to go report to the world what's going on.
Yeah. I'm going to send you snail mail from a P.O. box somewhere. But 47 years old. That's my age, man. I just turned 45 in just a few days ago, a week ago. So I'm super excited for 47. 47, everything changes, and I'm gone.
Why are you doing that?
Why am I disappearing?
Yeah.
Dude, because I'm building a business. I'm building a process. I'm trying to build something that will last, that doesn't need the name Andrew Bustamante, right? There will always be CIA. There will always be former CIA officers that are coming out that can tell you more recent, more current, more relevant information about how CIA is approaching new problems. Things evolve, things change. USAID had a place and a time, and it overstayed its welcome. I don't want to be one of those names that overstays my welcome, right? I want to have my impact, make my commitments, help where I can help, and then move on to where I'm needed next. And by the time I'm 47, my son is 14, my daughter is 9. That's where I really want to focus my effort on them.
But you're taking them with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
And you want to leave the country and disappear.
Currently I have between 3 and 5 locations that we're looking at overseas. All of them are getting scouted between this year and next year.
I'm going to look at the flight manifest.
If we're taking flights.
Fucking smuggling his kid in a Cuban drug boat. This is how you learn.
But yeah, that's the whole goal. And then I just want to focus on them. The business should be running, passive income to my paycheck can go to a unmarked account somewhere where I can draw on it from a foreign country, and my
Change your name.
Country will still exist. No, I don't want to go through that process.
But you'll take the CIA mask and face and hair off.
All that'll go away. Yeah.
Okay.
All that'll go away.
And you really like an Asian guy under there?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, that'd
I'm
be
the
funny.
biggest dicked Asian guy you've ever met.
That was all right. Pause. Wouldn't be hard to do. Anyway. Sorry,
Unless he's like,
half Asian.
this is not what I said. Oh, we know which half.
All right, so you're 47. You're going
47.
off. So that's 2027.
Yep. People will get to see me for 2 more years, and then I'll disappear.
You're not going to make an announcement, I assume. You're just going to go.
Yeah. And if I can go earlier, I will. I've got a book coming out this year. We'll talk about it soon.
Yeah, we're
I've
bringing
got a
you back
book
for that.
already coming out next year. We'll talk about that when the time comes. And then that's it.
And you're going to be able to reveal where you were undercover and all that.
That's what I'm the most excited about, yeah.
All right, so we'll have you back in a couple months to discuss all that and start promoting the book. It comes out September.
September.
You're looking at? Okay. All right, Andy. Great as always, man. It's always awesome talking with you. Covered the gamut of geopolitics once again today. And you opened up on some stuff today. I really appreciate that.
No, dude, I appreciate you asking some deep questions. And, one of the reasons I love coming back here is because you always genuinely seem interested in me as a person. And that's a CIA trick, dude. You show some genuine interest in somebody as a person, and they're going to open up. So I appreciate it.
It's just a Julian trick in my book, but I appreciate that. All right. Appreciate it, brother. Everyone else, you know what it is. Give it a thought. Get back to me. Peace.
So fresh on me. Freedom.